What does Atlantis mean? Atlantis. The Atlantis. Those of atoll is what it means, basically. ATL. For those who live here in the United States, there's a city called Atlanta, and they abbreviate it ATL. Atoll. Atoll is directly related to Atlas. Atlas is a titan who held up the heavens. The prefix ATL also is a suffix of Quetzalcoatl. Quetzalcoatl is how most people say it. Quetzalcoatl is the basically one of the gods of South America, okay, of ancient South America. But he is known as the plumed serpent. Atl means serpent, okay? So ATL is a direct root of the word serpent, or it has some relation to serpent, the serpent being. So Atlantis, Atlas, Atlas, etc. All of these beings, for the most part, were gigantic in comparison to us today. We have been lied to and told the further back in time you go, the smaller mankind gets, because we have to de-evolve back into tiny monkeys, right? That's not the truth. The further back in time you go, the bigger mankind gets, because mankind started off as demigods. They were part God. They lived for a very long time. We carried many of the attributes of our makers because we have their genes, some of their genes at least, some more than others, in our DNA. One of the other things is that we would be big. We were large. We were very large. But the gods were even larger. The El were larger. The El, or the gods, designated two classes of humanity to begin with. There was the worker class and there was the mason class. The masons were those who would have certain benefits because they would be basically the house slaves to the gods. They were the ones who built the houses of the gods that we now call temples. Now there's a reason why temples are so gigantic. It's not because it's symbolic. It's not a metaphor because that's how big our God is. You know, our God is just huge and you know, he's just so amazing. We're going to build a gigantic house for him or whatnot. It's literal. It's physical and it's actual. Those temples are gigantic. Those statues of the gods are gigantic because the gods were gigantic. They were giants, okay? Like I said, that's in comparison to us today, not in comparison to their fathers, the Titans, okay, who were much bigger. So next up is the Nephilim. Nephilim, remember, I am or im means plural. So it's really the Nephal, the many of the Nephal, okay? Nephal or Nepal means fallen or to fall or to cause to fall. Now, two theories of that. One is that they were the fallen angels. They fell from grace. They fell into a different density, and now they're the bad guys. The ancient world used to have these huge giant trees everywhere, and somebody cut those trees down. Okay, there are mesas today. There are solidified, petrified mesas, and that's why mesas look like tree trunks, because many of them are tree trunks from an age that we don't know about. So they are known also in their secret societies. They refer to one another as fellers. Hey, fellers! What's a feller? A feller is someone who causes to fall. A feller is like a lumberjack. A feller is somebody who cuts things down. The word feller sort of evolved into the word fellow. So now it's a fellowship instead of a fellowship. And they call themselves the fellows or the fellers, and they are secret society members. They are basically saying, we're going to pay homage to our gods, and oftentimes that's a requirement that you are related to them. Now, as a part of the Nephilim, we have the Norse mythology, Nephelheim. Same place. It's the place of the fallen ones, right? Nephelheim, Nephilim. There's a country called Nepal. That's where these Anunnaki landed. The beings from heaven landed. They fell. They came down. And the place where those people who were native to India and China, they named that place after the gods who came down. They called it the place of the fallen, Nepal. Let's talk about the bloodline. Now, the word Elu, if you look it up on Wikipedia and you look up the origins and etymology of the word Elu, you'll find a few different things. One of those things is, I think it's a Sanskrit word that's related, and it conveys the meaning of unmixed. Okay? The Elu, the word Elu itself conveys sometimes the meaning to be unmixed, to be pure. This ties directly into the El, into the bloodline. And this is why the vampires and everyone else are so concerned. See how they scar the face to look more like reptilian, like the gods. So see, there's the armor, etc. Anyway, the Elu are very concerned about their bloodline, about their genetic coding. It's not because they just love their family so much, okay? Don't get me wrong. This is a Vulcan mindset, okay? This is the mindset that the ends justify the means. They care very much about the DNA, the genetic sequencing, the abilities that those people will have, that they want to be as pure as possible so that they don't lose their abilities, so that they don't lose this connection that they have with their ancestors. They don't want to evolve and turn into something that is entirely different from the beings that they started off as or directly related to. Right? If anything, they would like to keep their demigod status as opposed to being purebred human or something else entirely, which I don't know if you can be that entirely, but they don't like to be mixed, and that's why they're so concerned with their blood, and they want to keep that coding undefiled. All other people are seen as mongrels, as animals, as goyim, as cattle, basically saying, hey, if you don't care about your genetics, if you don't care, if you're not trying to keep your genes and your programming pure, then you're basically an animal to us. And that's their mindset. They see others as mongrels. Another good word to use is muggles, for those of you who are interested in Harry Potter, right? If you're not a wizard, if you don't have the wizard blood in you, then you're seen as a muggle, which is sort of a funny pronunciation of mongrel, okay? You're basically seen as a non-magical, somebody who has no power. You have no power. You have no abilities. You have no power. Your power has been removed. We have power now, and we would like to keep it. That's kind of how they see these things. They are the demigods, or would like to be. They may be able to transfer souls into different vessels. They are also known as the pure bloods, right? With the pure DNA sequence. They are also known as the blue bloods. Interestingly enough, the Vulcans of Star Trek are also known as having blue blood. Now, if the El had blue blood and they were seen as this sort of ivory, albino, very white, pasty color, if their blood was blue, don't you think that might shine through a little bit? And that might help to explain why they would look not pure white, but have this sort of bluish tint to them, just like us. If you look at me right now, you can tell, right? If you look at my skin, it has a reddish tint to it, right? Even though I'm Caucasian, even though I'm white, I have a reddish, sort of rosy colored tint to my skin, and that's because I have red blood, okay? There is blood running through my skin, and sometimes it's red because it's oxygenated, because I like to breathe, and sometimes it's blue because it has less oxygen. Like when you look in your wrist, sometimes you can see the blue vein, and that is the blood that's on its way back to the heart in order to get oxygenated. Divine right. So the blue bloods, they claim divine right. What does divine mean? That means permission from above. Permission from the stars, permission from the gods, right? Nil sine numine is a Latin phrase that can be found on the Colorado State seal at the very least, which means nothing without permission from above, nothing without divine permission, not permission from one all-permeating God figure, but from the gods, from the strong and mighty leaders that once walked our plane of existence. Okay? Nothing without their permission, which they still walk our plane of existence. Like I said, they went into hiding. And they will return one day, which is how we're going to wrap up this video. We're going to talk about the return of the El. They don't want this to sink in. Right along with the popped collars, the skin tones, the abilities, the magic, all of the things that we see, all of this seemingly separate evidence weighs together as one. Also, in all of these stories, whether it be Ragnarok, whether it be the second coming, the arrival of the blue Kachina star, the return of Quetzalcoatl, an alien invasion, or something also known as the harvest of the gods. Think about that one. All of these God-type beings, all of these strong leaders, the mighty shepherds, the Ha-Ros, the heroes, our superheroes of old, the creator beings. Every story implies that they will come back. Every story talks about how they had left, and now, since they have left, we have missed them, basically. We try to be like them, we call upon them, we cry out to them. They're clearly not around. Nobody's really showing up. Now, you can attribute miracles and stuff, or whatnot, but I'm talking physically showing up, okay? All of these religions, all of these stories, all of these myths and legends and lore of our ancient history imply that the gods, the El, will come back someday. They will return. Now, we've grown accustomed to them not being here. And that's why we have kept them in story form, in caricature, in all of these different ways, right? To remind ourselves, to give ourselves a little trail of breadcrumbs to follow back home. But they say that they will return one day. Now, when they return, they also say that there's probably going to be a fight. There's going to be some problems, that they're going to need to clean up a mess type of a deal. It's interesting to me because as far as an alien invasion, and we know that the word alien is directly related to the El or the Elyon, the gods, that when they return, it's going to be shocking because we have grown accustomed to the absence, right? When humanity goes a certain amount of time from significant events happening, those events turn into myth and stories and bedtime stories and fairy tales, and pretty soon they're just considered lies. We forget that there's a reality there. So imagine what kind of fear it's going to strike and respect it's going to strike into the hearts of those who are alive at that time when the El return. Now remember, there are good El and there are bad El. The good El are those who promote humanity continuing to live, right? They promote goodness and purity, and, Superman kind of represents the good El. He's Kal-El. And then there are the bad El, represented by things like, the Joker and Pennywise and stuff like that. But anyhow, the El, the gods, all the stories indicate that they will return one day. The only reason I bring that up is for no religious significance, but just to prepare people. I believe that it's important for us to study the past, to uncover our past that has been hidden from us, our ancient oblivion, so that we can understand our origins, so we know more about who we are, why we're here, who's in charge, what we're doing, what we'd like to do, what has been taken away from us, what has been deleted, what has been restricted, so that we can empower ourselves to get those things back. It all starts with the concept of self. Who am I? These are questions we should know. This is the first thing that we should be taught. Not something that we should be left wondering. It shouldn't be a cliffhanger. So I'm here to guide and to share my path with you because I'm discovering more about who I am and where I come from. Now, the reason I mention this is because equally important to studying our past, to figure out where we are, is to understand the future and what is to come. So it gives us purpose to our present. The past gives our present meaning. The future gives our present purpose, so that we can plan things out, so that we can be prepared, so that time can be on our side as it has been on the side of the immortals for so long. They understand this. They know that humans come and go like that, but they don't. So why not use time as a tool for us?